A very warm welcome to everyone. We are going to get started with a very active day. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you understand me? I will try to talk slowly. I have very American English, so I apologize. I would like to share a little bit about myself and why I am here today, and then we will go through everything that is in your folder and make a clear understanding of what we will do today. This is the first type of family-based care conference like this in South Asia. After this conference, there will be pictures of you and everything that we will do nationwide and international because of what you are doing here today. It's a very big deal. Okay.
सर्वांना नमस्कार आणि सर्वांचं हार्दिक हार्दिक स्वागत. खरं तर बाल हक्क आयोगाचे अध्यक्ष आणि आमच्या सर्वांचे प्रेरणास्थान मार्गदर्शक असे प्रवीणजी घुगे यांच्याशी काही महिन्यांपूर्वी एका महत्त्वपूर्ण विषयावर बोलणं झालं आणि खरं तर त्यांनीच तो विषय काढलेला होता. फ्यू डेज अगो मिस्टर प्रवीणजी घुगे केम टू अहमदनगर अँड ही ॲक्च्युअली हॅज इनिशिएटेड इम्पॉर्टंट सब्जेक्ट ऑफ दिस फॅमिली बेस्ड केअर. या विषयावरती आपल्या राज्यामध्ये काहीतरी काम व्हायला पाहिजे असं त्यांच्या मनामध्ये होतं. सो ही वॉज थिंकिंग दॅट आवर स्टेट शुड डू समथिंग ऑन दिस व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट सब्जेक्ट. आम्ही त्यांना विनंती केली की खरं तर बाल हक्क आयोगाचा पुढाकार असेल आणि सहभाग असेल तरच या गोष्टी होऊ शकतात. we told him that in the state commission for child right to be involved in the process, then only some fruitful outcome can be expected. कारण सामाजिक संस्था बालकांसाठी काम करणाऱ्या संस्था त्यांनी पुढाकार घेतला तर या सगळ्या विषयामध्ये शासनाची भूमिका खूप महत्त्वाची आहे आणि बालसेवी संस्थांची आणि वेगवेगळे जे अलाइड फॅक्टर्स आहेत त्यांची पण खूप महत्त्वाची भूमिका आहे. त्यामुळे तुम्ही याच्यामध्ये पुढाकार घ्या. आणि त्यानंतर महेश मरकड जो आपल्याशी आता संवाद करतोय, जॉयस जी आता डायसवर होती, फ्लॉरेन्स जी इंग्लंडमध्ये होती पण या कामामध्ये लक्ष घालत होती, आणि मुख्य म्हणजे इयान आनंद जे स्वतः या सगळ्या प्रक्रियेचे आपण म्हणू शकतो की भारतामध्ये आणि एशियामध्ये फॅमिली बेस्ड केअरचा कन्सेप्ट रुजला जावा म्हणून अविरत धडपड करणारे असे ते कार्यकर्ते आहेत. आणि त्यांचा या सगळ्या विषयाबद्दलचा जो दृष्टिकोन आहे हा जे सगळे बालकांसाठीचे आंतरराष्ट्रीय मानकं आहेत आणि युनोनी जी धोरणं वेळोवेळी ठरवली, जे कायदे संमत झाले, त्या सगळ्याला अनुरूप अशा प्रकारची एक योग्य भूमिका घेऊन ते गेली अनेक वर्ष काम करतायत. आणि मग हा सगळा योग हा या सगळ्या प्रवीणजींच्या आणि आनंद यांच्या सहयोगातून घडवला. तो घडवण्यासाठी एक कॅटलिस्टची भूमिका कोणत्या तरी संस्थेला करायची होती. आणि स्नेहालय नेहमी गॅप्समध्ये काम करणारी संस्था आहे, पोकळीत काम करणारी संस्था आहे. जर दुसरं कोणी एखादं काम चांगलं करत असेल तेच काम आम्ही करण्याची आम्हाला काही गरज वाटत नाही, परंतु जर काम कोणी करत नसेल किंवा गॅप असेल तर तिथे काम केली पाहिजे अशी आमची भूमिका असते. आणि म्हणून या महत्त्वाच्या अशा विषयामध्ये काम करण्यासाठी म्हणून एक कॅटलिस्टची भूमिका, एक सगळ्यांना एकत्र आणण्याची भूमिका ही स्नेहालयानं स्वीकारली. सो स्नेहालय ऑलवेज वर्क इन द गॅप्स and we never wish to do the same thing if people are doing already, but we feel that there is a gap of someone should play a role of catalyst in this family based care initiative. आणि मग त्याच्यावर बरंचसं चिंतन मंथन मागच्या 3 महिन्यांपासून चालू होतं आणि आजचा दिवस आहे ज्या दिवशी आपण सगळेजण मुलांबद्दल आस्था बाळगणारे कार्यकर्ते, संस्थांचे प्रतिनिधी, बालकल्याण समित्यांचे प्रतिनिधी, ज्युव्हेनाईल बोर्डाचे काही प्रतिनिधी, महिला बाल विकास क्षेत्रामधल्या काही जबाबदार अशा अधिकारी, असे सगळेजण आपण आज या ठिकाणी एकत्र आलेलो आहोत. आणि या एकत्र येणं ही एक सुरुवात आहे आणि ही एका फार मोठ्या बदलाची सुरुवात आहे. कमिंग टुगेदर इज अ बिगिनिंग अँड वी रिअली फील दॅट इट्स अ बिगिनिंग ऑफ अ व्हेरी ग्रेट थिंग फॉर अपकमिंग वर्ल्ड अँड स्पेशली फॉर चिल्ड्रन वी आर क्रिएटिंग अ न्यू होप. बालकांसाठी विशेषतः एक नवीन आशा आपल्याला निर्माण करायची आणि त्या दृष्टीने आजची ही परिषद खूप महत्त्वाची आहे. नेहमी जेव्हा मोठ्या गोष्टी घडत असतात तेव्हा त्याची सुरुवात करताना काही छोटी माणसंच असतात. तसं आता आपण खूप महत्त्वाच्या लोकांना याच्याला निमंत्रित केलेलं आहे. पण निश्चितपणे हा प्रवाह पुढे जसं गंगोत्री छोटी असते आणि गंगा ही एक विशाल नदीमध्ये रूपांतरित होत असते, तसा हा एक मोठा प्रवाह आपल्या एशियामध्ये भारतामध्ये असणार आहे. आणि एका नव्या विचाराला सामोरं जायला आपण सर्व देशाला तयार करत आहोत. ही आशियातली अशा प्रकारची एक साऊथ आशियातली पहिली कॉन्फरन्स आहे आणि त्याचे आपण सर्वजण ऐतिहासिक साक्षीदार आणि सहभागी आहोत ही आपल्या सर्वांसाठीच अभिमानाची, आनंदाची आणि आशादायक अशी गोष्ट आहे असं मला वाटतं. मी हा सगळा जो सेशन आहे याच्यामध्ये आपण सर्वांनी सहभाग दिला, पण सकाळ सोशल फाउंडेशन आणि हा डेक्कन जिमखाना क्लब यांचे विशेष आभार मानतो. त्यांनी खूप गोष्टी सोयीस्कररित्या आम्हाला उपलब्ध करून दिलेल्या आहेत. आपल्या सर्वांचं पुन्हा एकदा स्वागत करतो आणि एका मोठ्या बदलाच्या प्रक्रियेचे साथीदार, साक्षीदार आणि त्याचे आरेखक, आर्किटेक्ट असं व्हायला आपण सर्व आता सिद्ध होऊया. धन्यवाद.
So, I want to tell you a little bit about, thank you. This is what we will do in the next 20 minutes or so. First is I will explain who am I and why am I in front of you and why do I sound like this. And then after that, we will talk about this Immersive Simulation Lab. What does that mean? Why are we here? What is the reason for all of this? And then after that, we will talk about the format for the day, exactly what will happen all day long. Then we'll take a break, and Mahesh is going to share a little bit about Snehalaya and the work that has been done so far. And then after that, I will come back and walk you through the case study, and we will get into groups and start working together quickly. So, first, I want to tell you who am I. My name is Ian Anand, and I was born in Kolkata, and I was abandoned by my mother, and I have no idea about any father. So I was raised up by an American family. I was adopted by an American family and given every possible gift you can think of. But I always knew that India was my birthplace, my mother and father. So I returned to India 10 years ago to start doing work. And I have been lucky enough to be on the drafting committee here in your state of writing the sponsorship and foster care guidelines. Now, my name is not spelled correctly. I am number 4. But we worked on and wrote the foster care guidelines. I was also, right now, I am working with the central government to write the sponsorship guidelines for the country. So as you can see, I am tied up with government very closely. And next one. And I also was a chairperson of the drafting committee for the foster care guidelines for the country as well with the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So that is why I am in front of you. I am done talking about myself. Can you go to the next? And one more. Thank you. I have a question for you all. What is this black dot? And I promise you no answer is wrong. But what is this black dot? Please give me any guesses. What is it?
Blot.
A dot?
Blot.
Blot. It's a blot. Yes, absolutely. What else? Any guess is fine and we'll be right, I promise you.
It's black against white.
It's black against white, absolutely. What else? You know this. What is it? Like anything. Guess anything. What is that black dot? A child. Brilliant. It's a child. What else?
Center point.
Center point. Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And maybe one more. Anyone else?
Focus area.
What?
Focus area.
Focus area. Absolutely.
Eyeball.
Eyeball. Yes, absolutely. One of them. Yeah. Great. Can you go to the next one? The point is that there's never one right answer. And for a child, there are so many answers for their care and protection at different times in their lives. When you are 6 months old, when you are 3 years, when you are 5 years, your answers are different. What do you need? So our responsibility in moving to family-based care is to think about all of the options for a child. And none of them are wrong. We just have to think what is the best place for a child. Mahesh, can you go back to the first slide, please? The backwards. Keep going backwards. Go back. More. One more. There we go. Perfect. Now, please look at this document in front of you that is called the Immersive Simulation Lab. What it means is that today you are going to actually be the experts going to each table and designing how family-based care can look in the state and in the country. So we are using your expertise. You are not going to sit and listen, because I know if I listen all day, I fall asleep. But you are going to be active, and your voice is the most important. That's why it's an immersive lab. This lab was created in America, but Western things are not going to work in India. So this lab was translated and created by the Snehalaya team and myself to an Indian context. It has been piloted in Latin America, in different countries, and in Thailand. But this is the first time anyone is doing this lab and this format in South Asia. So it is a very, very exciting thing. Now, what are the types of family-based care in India? Anybody answer, please. As per the JJ Act, what are the types of family-based care in India? Adoption. What else? Adoption's one. What else? Foster care. Is foster care, there's two types of foster care, group and individual. Okay. What else is in JJ Act?
Kinship relationship and sponsorship.
Kinship, but it's sponsorship, because there is no kinship, even though that is what India does. But it's sponsorship. So we have adoption, we have foster care, both individual and group, we have sponsorship, and what else? CCIs. Institutionalization. There's one other thing that is part of all of this. It's aftercare. Right? So those are the things. Now, what does it mean to transition to family-based care? Anybody, what does it mean to transition?
Change our priorities.
Change the priorities. Right now, and for much of history, it has been CCI first, and sometimes CCI only. There is not much foster care. Where is it? Adoption is growing. Sponsorship still coming, but there's a little bit there. But it's mostly been CCIs. So how do you get an entire country, or even an entire state, to transition to family-based care? It's very difficult to do. But today we are going to look at many of the pieces of transition and have you create a plan. This will be very active, and at the end of the day, and after everything, you will get a report that says what you have created. And then we will work with government to hopefully see if that report can turn into action. Which is very exciting. So, why are you here? Some of you represent government. Some of you represent NGOs. Some of you are individuals here because you care about this topic. You are the people that will carry things forward. Unfortunately, I am not here all the time, but you will carry things forward. So that is why you are here. So the format for the day now is that Mahesh will talk a little bit about Snehalaya and share the work that has been done so far and what they are thinking about and learning about transition. And then I will go through the case study and set the full day, and then we will get into groups. So you will be in groups in less than maybe 30 minutes. I'll get you really quickly into groups, 40 minutes. Okay? Any questions so far? Can you understand me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Your turn.
Does anyone have questions?
Thank you, ma'am, for your beautiful sharing and your own experience as like transforming the system by taking simple steps which can be corrected at a moment. But while working in this particular in Snehalaya or having your international experience and exposure, as a researcher, I also have this dilemma, like from where to begin, because somewhere we have start like from the local organization if you want to correct that. But sometimes they also been part of the system, I mean government system or community. They've been also forced or pressurized by the system to follow the same what other organizations are following. Even they want to transform, or they want to exist their existence, still they cannot do. And so in that, how do you think that the government role in this is very important, and how they will be shaping in that? Because the leadership is efficient, then only we can see the transformation in the ground. So do you have any experience on that, and do you have any experience and while working with the government system as well?
So it's definitely true that there are all kinds of levels at which you can work doing this, with or without government assistance. You're always going to have to look at what is in place, because obviously you always have to work within the law. And there are, in India, you've moved forward and it's been a great progress, but there are countries which actually have laws forbidding the things that are necessary to be able to move towards family-based care. So there, the first step has to be advocacy and lobbying towards law reform, to at least, if not actually putting in place systems for foster care, to at least scrap the parts that stand in its way. If those barriers are not there, then it really depends on your situation, on your resources, on your knowledge, what you are best of. Obviously, if you can cooperate with the government, the impact will be greater, because once they have seen a working pilot, the argument is usually it cannot be done. So the first step is to show it can by doing it. And that's why starting at the grassroots level is often quite helpful, even without any government involvement, just to prove that it can be done. You just have to be really, really careful to do it in a responsible way. It is a good idea along the way, even if you start at the grassroots level, to try and get as much government involvement as you can. And again, that can be at local level, at district level, at state level, at national level. Whatever you can get will help you. And if you get to one level, that will help you move to the next because of the connections that are there. Does that answer your question, more or less?
Thank you so much for your very informative discussion. I don't really have a question, but I just want your inputs into it. Like globally we see, and we also discussed, that there is no data available on children who live in institutions or children who are getting family-based care. So, and that's the case of India and even in Southeast Asia also. So what are your take on this? Like, what do you suggest? Like, how can we fill this lacuna? Because it is one area which prohibits us to give a solid background for government that we should do this or we should not do this.
Yes, that is a big problem. Last year I brought out a report which can be downloaded for free on my website, where I made an overview of the alternative care and child protection situation for all autonomous countries in the world. And it was a desk-based review, so I just gathered the data that is available. And as you say, there is in many areas a lack of data, or data is not comparable between different countries. One way that I'm working right now to do something about that is that I'm a member of Eurochild, a European network of organizations involved in child protection. And Eurochild is starting within Europe a data mapping strategy, where they are looking at what kind of data on alternative care is available in which countries, what is the quality of that data, how is that data gathered, and to what extent is that data comparable. And out of that research, they want to try and provide guidelines on how to collect and manage useful data, which is also comparable, and they then hope that once they have that for about 30 countries in Europe, including some of the really poor European countries, that might also be applicable or can be expanded to a larger area. And I'm on the expert advisory committee for that research project.
Not a question actually, but you just mentioned, I want to reflect back, is culturally how much of a relevance it applies to us in our context. How important a child's role is in decision making. Would you elaborate a little bit on that?
There is often the idea of, we'll decide for the child because the child is too small. But children do have opinions, and they have an insight in their own life that only they have. No one else has that insight. So, no, we cannot ask the child, shall we put you in foster care or shall we put you back into your family? That responsibility cannot be put on the child. But when we have gathered a lot of information that tells us a lot about the situation, we can say, okay, right now it looks like your uncle could take care of you or your aunt could take care of you. What do you think would work best for you, and why do you think that would be better? And if the child says, my aunt always makes me cry, then maybe the aunt is not the best solution. And this is not, a scientific analysis, but if the aunt always makes the child cry, then there is something going on there that's not really great. So in that sense, you do need to look, you can't put the responsibility on them. The final decision needs to lie with adults who have all the information. But the child's input is really important to be able to make the right decisions. The best interest of the child has to be at the core of everything we do. And unless we listen to a child, we cannot possibly know what their best interest is. Agree?
From to CCI, how can all those children going to be the family-based care? How? But there is large number of children. So how they can going CCI to family-based care?
About 80 to 90% of children in CCIs have at least one living parent. Out of the rest of them, a large number have extended family members. So when we're looking at getting children out of CCIs and into family-based care, actually most of them are going back to their families. Their families just need support to be able to care for their children. And the perception is, oh, but this is going to be incredibly expensive. If we have to give support to all these poor families. The perception is that CCIs are a more efficient and cheaper way of taking care of these children. But that's a myth. It's an incredibly persistent myth, but it is quite simply false. Institutional care is 6 to 20 times more expensive than family-based care. And that's only talking about the day-to-day costs. That's not talking about the long-term results of a higher chance of being homeless, higher chance of being unemployed, higher chance of a criminal record, a higher chance of not being able to take care of their own children in the future, and those children ending up in care. All those things come with a lifelong cost to society. So it seems like, having to pay for each of these children is an enormous amount of money, but in practice, once you start the transition, initially you're going to have to make an investment because for a little while you run two parallel systems. The CCI is still there with all or most of the children still in it, and you're running a transition team with the first of the family-based options. But then the costs are going to go down because fewer children are going to be in the CCI. So the more expensive children have moved over to the cheaper side, and then the costs go down. And you end up, if you're smart, you reserve the same budget and you keep the money that you've been using for these children in the CCI at the same level, but you are then able to cater to far more children for the same amount of money.
Outside for work, and no one is there for taking care of them. And so if some money should be offered to family, then we will move that child into the family for family-based care. And one another child's participation in decision making. If child is below 6 years, how he or she will be take the decision making? That is not possible. So best interest of the child, will think about that.
Moving children back to their family is never going to mean just bringing them to their family, waving and going away. Children are in CCIs for a reason, and the families will need support to take away the reason for which the child was sent to a CCI. So if a child was sent to a CCI because the parents need to work during the day, then there has to be daycare. Daycare needs to be set up so that a child doesn't need to be away from the parents day and night, so that they just need to be there in daycare while the parents are working. And as for decision making, as I said earlier, but I know you only came in later, so you may not have heard that part, the child will never have the final decision. That cannot be their responsibility. It's too much. They can't make that decision. But even a 3-year-old, you can get their reaction to certain things. You can't give them a very complicated theoretical situation, but you can, through play and through interaction at an age-appropriate level, get information about how they feel about certain things, and that can be very useful for making sure that you make the right decisions for them.